So now, as a wrap up for our startup pitches, we have another pilot to present. And for that, I would love to welcome Annalena Schneider from the Schwarz Group and Mike from Centricity to stage. They had 2 pilots, which was the first time in history in our program, with the Schwarz Group, so Kaufland and Lidl. And Mike woke up extra early to join us here today. So thank you so much for doing that. And still now handing over to you guys, yeah, still getting up, for your amazing results and sharing your pilots.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So let me share my screen here. We have a formal deck to go through. So to start off, just quick introduction. So thank you for that. So my name is Mike Brackett. I'm the founder and CEO of the company. I founded Centricity after 20 plus years in the grocery industry, working for Ahold Delhaize. So Belgian-based company, but operated mostly in the United States, known better as Hannaford, Stop and Shop, Food Lion, and did everything there from stocking shelves overnight to store management to district management to category management, which is where I really felt the pain of using kind of syndicated and one-sided data, which is what led me to found the company. So we've had the pleasure and privilege to be able to engage with Schwarz Group in both their Lidl and Kaufland banners. So Anna, turn it over to you.
Yes, great, thank you. So we are trying to do an interactive presentation. We will see how that is going. My name is Anna, working for Lidl's innovation department, and together with Kaufland, we are, as a part of Schwarz Group, anchor partners in the Plug and Play retail program. So today I'm speaking on behalf of my Kaufland colleagues as well, because as Caro already mentioned, we have a POC going on both our company sides, so for a Lidl business unit and a Kaufland business unit. So with that, I'm handing back over to Mike.
Thank you. So far, so good. Yeah, so a little bit about us. So what we do is we really challenge the status quo of what has been for a very long time. That is the baseline that retail and CPG companies use to make their most important decisions, and that is category management as it pertains to item variety and promotion of mature categories, as well as selecting new innovation for white space categories, as well as marketing, and of course, demand planning and forecasting. So what I found and what we found is that traditionally lagging indicators, i.e. point of sale data, is generally the basis of what this goes off of. And something I felt personally, and that we felt that really has been amplified, especially by the global pandemic, is that we believe that a lagging indicator is no longer good enough in today's disrupted market. So we believe that businesses are held back by syndicated data, as it creates a really not even so much incomplete, but more one-sided picture of consumer sentiment. And so what Centricity does, and I don't think we have numbers here, but we actually take in about 2.5 billion points of consumer sentiment data from all over the world every single day. So that's about 20% more traffic than Facebook sees, for example. We then have a human and artificial intelligence-based platform that is really enabling forward-looking, data-driven decisions for today's retail and CPG customers. And what the output of that is that there are better workflow solutions all the way from research and development to marketing to, of course, the day-to-day category management, all the way down to the demand planning aspects of our retail and CPG partners. So we are a SaaS platform built for CPG and retailers. As I said, it's a workflow platform that is really garnered to help show a true kind of insight into what consumers want and need in the moment on a very micro market level. And so, as I'll talk about, we've really had the privilege of starting out that process through a POC process with both Schwarz Group's banners, and have really been able to have some interesting insights, which I'll go a little bit more into. But to hand it back over to you, I'd love to hear a little bit more about Schwarz.
Yes, so I don't want to bore you out with numbers or figures, just to give you a setting, because everyone, or not like everyone, but almost everyone is knowing our 2 retail brands. That is on the one hand side Lidl with the discounter business model, and on the other hand Kaufland as the hypermarket format. But I think what really stands out is that we are really well positioned along the retail value chain. So Schwarz Group, for example, operates their own production facilities as well, where the group produces, for example, water or bakery or more fun products like chocolate and ice cream. And on the other hand, operating recyclable management as well. And I think that is really what stands out. And what I wanted to emphasize about Schwarz Group and the really diverse innovation business cases we can focus on, it's all about. But what is on focus today is our POC with Centricity. So I'm going to give you a short overview what it's all about. We started last August with the challenge, or rather a question of our business units internally, because they asked us how can we understand and track micro market consumer trends at the pre-purchase level regarding non-food products. And to give you just a short intro of what non-food products is for us, that is everything that is not food, actually. So from textile products to electronics, and that on a micro level for our countries. And this challenge was faced by, as Mike already mentioned, as well, Kaufland and Lidl. So on the Lidl side, Category Management International and Lidl Analytics is running the POC. And on Kaufland side, it's the Business Intelligence business unit, both from an international perspective, so from the headquarters. For these colleagues, it's always especially important that the solution is scalable, so that the solution is applicable to a lot of our countries. And that is the case for Centricity. So that was one major aspect why the business units decided to do a POC with Centricity. And that's exactly where we are standing right now, like right in the middle of the testing phase. What is the current status? The current status is that we have finished, as well for Kaufland and for Lidl, a POC for the US market. Lidl was a bit faster, so there we already kicked off a POC for the German market in December. That is approximately running till March. And on Kaufland's side, we are still in discussions for the expansion of the POC to another relevant country for our Kaufland colleagues. So unfortunately, we are not that far that I can showcase the final results or the final next steps we like to go or take with Centricity. However, our business units are really positive and always positive speaking about the collaboration with Centricity. The first feedback is that they're really committed and have great communicational skills for our business units. It's always helpful when there is a good communication plan, schedule meetings ahead, that everyone knows what to expand when. And on the other side, Centricity is really flexible and keen to adapt to our requirements. And I think that is something Mike is going to emphasize now.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And to get a little bit more into the POC overview, as stated, both Lidl and Kaufland, we started in the US market and decided collectively, let's start off small here. And, yes, the value proposition may make a lot of sense, but we thought about how do we frame a POC process where it's structured and all parties are clear on the deliverable at the conclusion of the POC, so that we have the opportunity to really be able to prove our value to both the Lidl and Kaufland banner. And so we did that by basically looking at one of the use cases I talked about, and that is white space categories. So more specifically, wooden toys, robotic lawnmowers, and baking supplies. So these were three categories where they said to us, perhaps we do not have enough data on it, or perhaps we do. We want to see how good yours is. And so what Centricity did is we really got to work on that. So we started off with 2 4 to 6 week timelines in the US, and as mentioned, are moving into the European market with Lidl and hopefully with Kaufland. And we started off with robotic lawnmowers. And if you think about the nature of a white space category and category management in itself, especially with someone the size of Schwarz Group, everybody on planet Earth wants to be carried in their stores, essentially. And because of that, you're going to see a lot more innovation than you can possibly handle. And so it's really important, we think, to be able to understand of a sea of innovation, or even within a private label, kind of white label department, what are the aspects of a white label category that are really going to drive success? So in other words, how can we help mitigate risk throughout a large, complex, multinational supply chain to make sure that if you are going to take a risk on a white label category such as robotic lawnmowers, that you do it in the right way. So what Centricity did is we collected billions of points of data, ran it through our algorithms that use, again, both human and AI data annotation, entity extraction and sentiment analysis based on a micro market level, and basically found that there are some very specific characteristics that drive the commercial actionability of a robotic lawnmower. So specifically, it's adjustable height, it's slow performance, it's anti-theft, lift sensor, mow time, and number of blades. And the importance of this is that it's to say, number one, if you wanted to go out and create this by yourself and put your own name on it, then these are the characteristics that we at Centricity believe are going to drive commercial action. So we work very carefully when we process our data to be sure that it's not just mentions on social media. We really want to be sure that our sentiment analysis is driving it towards some sort of commercial action within Lidl or Coughlin's operating market. And so in this instance, we were able to provide this data, both, of course, in a presentation form here, which is easy to digest, but also via a data share with their data science departments so that they can look through, sift through this data and see the same thing that we are, and kind of get a feel for perhaps what a more longer term commercial engagement could really look like. But again, it's all about mitigating risk in the supply chain and helping both Lidl and Coughlin be first to market with the right items in the right market. So the second use case we have here is with Coughlin. So again, we had the privilege of working with Coughlin, and similar sort of thing, except this was wooden toys. And what we were basically told is that our category hierarchy stops at wooden toys. And again, it's about mitigating risk. When you are a company that large, of course, it doesn't make sense to just bring out random innovation into the market. So we really tried to again, analyze our billions of points of data a day in relevant markets and say, what is actually driving intent right now? What is actually driving commercial applicability before there is any POS data? And what we found here, you can see is I'm not going to list them off, but you can see our many educational type of toys within the wooden toy category. And then I don't believe this is shown here, but we even took it a step further down to what Centricity calls facets. And that is, we get away from the tree sort of hierarchical way of looking at data and create more of a net with our facets. So we're able to see clusters of relevant facets that are applicable to these. And what that really means in a commercial aspect is that we can tell you that, okay, if you want to get into wooden dollhouses, flat puzzles, and shape sorting tools, that's great. But we can even go as far as to say what color is most favorable, what size, what age group, what pieces. And then furthermore, all of that is down to within a 1 kilometer accuracy. So again, for a large, complex supply chain, it is our hope that in a larger commercial agreement, this can really help mitigate that risk and again, help Coughlin be the market leader, whether it be in wooden toys or any category that they so choose. And so in this instance, they were more interested in using our visualization platform, whereas Lidl was more interested in a data share. But Centricity really has the ability to be able to work with large, complex companies such as Lidl and Coughlin in any way that they see fit. So if that's within their own internal data share, that's great. And if that's on our visualization tool, then that's great as well. And the last part of this, I think, is really the taxonomy enrichment program. So Centricity has a 17,000 node hierarchy, which is kind of a meaningless number without any sort of context. But the easiest correlation I can make for you is that Google, for example, their product taxonomy is only at 10,000 nodes. And so per the nature of what we do, we start off with a client. In this instance, this is a real hierarchy that we built for Coughlin. And we start off with their base hierarchy and we enrich it based off not what we think and not what we make up, but based off what customers say in their markets. What we're trying to show is true unmet demand. So this hierarchy and their hierarchy category nodes therefore subsequently grows organically every single day based off what the customer's wants and needs are in that market. And what that truly is unmet demand, and that allows category management at either Lidl or Coughlin to go out and take a proactive approach to market share gain, as opposed to retroactively chasing market share losses as you would with some of our more traditional players, namely Nielsen and IRI. So again, the conclusion is, we're really pleased with the ability to have been able to work with Legal and Kaufman throughout this. It's been a fantastic partnership, and I would say, similarly, the communication has been fantastic, especially for a company as large as Schwarz, and we say that all the time internally. And so we are moving into the German market to prove said scalability, and we certainly hope that there can be a longer-term commercial arrangement there. So thank you, everybody. And with that, I'm not sure if I went over there, if we have time for questions, but if we do, I'm certainly happy to hear.
Annalena, Mike, thank you so much for the insights. I love this global approach and really this global POC. So it's an amazing result. We went a little bit over time, but I say we have still time for one question. So how do you actually measure the traffic? So are you counting the IPs? And how do you define and measure a sentiment?
Yeah, it's a really great question. So we are built from the ground up to be GDPR compliant. So great question as it pertains to scaling in Europe. So we have relationships with both direct publishers and demand side platforms, where we basically either A, have a pixel placed on a publisher's property page, or have an arrangement with a data service provider or demand side platform where we take in just raw internet traffic. And yes, we're using both IP address and device ID. To be able to garner what the user's location is while still keeping that anonymous and being able to operate in Europe. And as it pertains to sentiment analysis, we do a mixture of human and machine. So we have humans that do entity extraction and look at contextually what is driving traffic in a particular market. So if it's a product website, or in the example of robotic lawnmowers, if it's do-it-yourself websites in Germany or whatever that may be, we're looking at that contextually, looking at the text on the page, looking at what is said around it, be that a review or something that applies to buy it or not buying it. And then there's a numerical score that is attached to that on a day-to-day basis with those billion points. That's then aggregated, geolocated, and then displayed back to our end users via our cloud platform so that they can again see what the sentiment is for those micro market categories on a very hyper local level.
Thank you so much for answering that. I think very, very helpful for the audience. And I mean, both of them will be around later on. So go to the startup booth, chat to Annalena. Thank you so much for being on stage. And that's also a wrap of our pitches and our content today.